My name is Viola and I would like to take you on a journey with Nikki from her life in Liberia and her journey to Sligo. We will explore the challenges she encountered along the way and theoretical interpretations of these challenges. We will finish by taking a little look at life for her in Sligo today and what the future might hold for her. Nikki is from Liberia on the west coast of Africa. It is one of only 2 sovereign countries in the world that were started by citizens and ex-Caribbean slaves of a political power as a colony for former slaves of the same political power. 2 consecutive civil wars not only destroyed much of Liberia's infrastructure, but young people were worst affected, with thousands recruited as child soldiers. Here we see a war-torn country. To the right, a stark picture of a street in the capital, Monrovia, filled with spent bullets. Nikki attended primary school and secondary school in Liberia. She studied industrial design in college in Nigeria, including ceramics and textiles, and she chose to specialise in graphics. She went on to establish her own private business of event planning and was later joined by her husband in the business. The loss of her first child through premature labour was a tragic casualty of this war. Now pregnant again with her second child, she sought assistance from the Red Cross to travel somewhere safe. She chose Ireland as a place where she could live with her family in safety and in freedom. Nikki arrived into Dún Laoghaire on a ferry in July 2003. On the journey, she went into premature labour once again. She was taken straight away to the Coombe Hospital. She still recalls those many fears. Fears for her baby about to be born too soon, fear of a new country. How would she manage and care for her baby? The support and advice from a caring social worker was a critical lifeline at the start for Nikki. When her baby son was strong enough to leave hospital, Nikki was actually afraid to take him. He was still so small, and she was on her own. How could she care for him and deal with everything in a strange country? And so began her journey through the direct provision system in Ireland. At this point, Nikki was transferred to Cork, the Mill Street Centre first and then Kinsale Road, Cork. She found the people friendly. When she smiled at them, they smiled back. Her impression was that they were welcoming and inclusive. In hindsight, though, she thinks that perhaps it was just a large city and nobody knew who she was or where she was from. While she was in Cork, Nikki was joined by her husband and they had a second child, a little girl. They were then transferred to Globe House in Sligo. Here they experienced racism very quickly. The following slides contain some examples. Globe House is close to the town, and on her first outing, delighted to meet somebody local, Nikki smiled at a lady who turned, stared at her and used bad language. Probably an example of what Bell Hooks refers to as white gaze, where white people believe that they control the gaze of black people. Access to information and systems, however, was very good in Globe House, and after identifying possible local health services, Nikki tried to register for her family with a doctor. She was told they were full. However, she found that there were others who successfully registered afterwards in the same surgery. This felt like discrimination, and another example of how she was made to feel like an outsider, a stranger who is not welcome. On another occasion, shortly after arriving, she was taking her baby to the creche in the resource house in the buggy one day. Some boys along the way used bad language, shouted and threw stones at her. She found this very frightening. This, in fact, took away some of her power and her freedom, as she only went out when she absolutely had to after this. She said she didn't just feel secure enough. This is recognised as othering, when the group see themselves as the norm and treat anyone who is different as the other. For immigrants trying to cope with all the challenges of new systems and new cultures, Gent tells us that culture shock is the first likely response. It was no different for Nikki, but, she says, she developed a thick skin and she embraced life in Sligo. The most important thing for her was that they were safe in their bed at night. Even if they were all sharing one room, she had her family around her and they were safe from the dangers of war. However, Nikki is quick to point out that Sligo as a community were not informed at the outset and were responding in defence. She spoke about the need to educate, to build trust within the community. On screen we have example of positive outcomes. When opportunities are presented to explain, people understand and are accepting. Standpoint theory is reflective of this position when consultation and narrative takes place between communities. Nikki is from a Christian background, and this is an important aspect of her culture and her sense of self-identity. For her, worship is through music, singing and dance. After coming to Sligo, she attended church in St. Anne's, but she found the lack of interaction and being preached at did not bring a sense of joyfulness to her life. Nowadays, a group from diverse cultures meet for Sunday worship and often celebrate occasions such as birthdays by cooking food from their own cuisine for residents in Globe House. As with most cultures, food is a very important part of Nikki's culture. I asked her about the food in direct provision. She said that the diet was not what she was used to or what she would have liked, but she made the most of it. She tells me with a chuckle that she used to often carry chili powder in her bag to spice up the food, as she found it very bland indeed. Once again, she said, the most important thing was that they were safe in their beds at night. Since arriving in Sligo, Nikki has completed her FETAC Level 5 and Level 6 in childcare. She is very appreciative of the support provided by staff in the Resource Centre in Cranmore in helping her complete her training. She is an after-school worker and believes that the children have played a large part in the acceptance of not just her, but other cultures in Sligo. She finds that children are open and accepting and share knowledge of other cultures in their home environment. She says children she knows in the street wave to her, and she knows that they're explaining to their parents who she is. I asked Nikki, what does she see for herself in the future? Nikki tells me that she sees a valuable need to, what she calls, bridge the gap and build trust between communities. At the moment, she works in the community and she's also chairperson of the Sligo Intercultural Forum. She sees the role played by children in this area as of great importance, and she sees a future for herself in harnessing this and building knowledge and trust in the community in which she has chosen to live. And Liberia today, after the war. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf is the first female African president elected to Liberia in 2005. Nikki tells me that she brings a lot of experience to the position. She is very child-driven as she tries to repair some of the untold damage inflicted through the horrors of the wars which devastated their country. While there is still corruption, progress is being made, and Liberian refugees are beginning to return to Liberia. And so things have come full circle. Nikki has been back to Liberia herself, but in the coming years she plans to visit with her husband and her 3 children. She tries to convey to them a sense of their own Liberian culture to mix with local culture and so build cultural memory. She hopes that when they visit Liberia they will become familiar with the culture from which they have come and make it more real for them. And on an end note, Nikki has embraced life fully in Sligo and is a respected and integral part of the community here.